Hey folks, it's me. I'm back on a little walk with my dog. Also back from London. Look how white my forehead looks there. I can do some color balancing. I thought I'd just go through a really quick flyby of London and what we're up to now, because there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Why was I in London? Well, technically I was over at Stratford-upon-Avon, then Brighton, then London, more London in between. But it was before this grant thing that we got with XR Network Plus, the Royal Shakespeare Company, and the Royal Central School of Drama, and this nice team that we built over the past few months. It's like one of the first actual grants that Agilens has been involved with, which was quite nice. And it was to build a virtual reality rehearsal tool. And it was so cool to take this thing that we've been building and testing and trying to get work as well as we can on our own, and then handing it to professionals and seeing the amazing things that they were able to do with it. And Stratford-upon-Avon is like the cutest little town in the world. Like the way people are like, oh, baby goat or whatever. Like I was like, oh, look at this little building. It's so cute. So that was a really cool place to hang around in. And also I got to go see The Constant Wife with Rose Leslie, who I found out that my friend who I was also staying with in London went to high school with. And that was kind of crazy. And it was a great show. And it was in the Swan Theatre, which is the virtual reality digital twin that we've been doing all of our experiments with for our virtual reality rehearsal tool for the Royal Shakespeare Company. And I just have to say, it is crazy how people are like, you can't have a virtual reality version of a show or any kind of like archive version of a theater show because it'll make people less interested in the real thing. And it was such a delight after spending so much time in this Swan Theater model, brought to you by Preview. Hey, Ryan Metcalf, good stuff. And after being in VR of that so much to then be in the real space, if anything, it enhanced the experience. It's like if you took a wine tasting course, like you're going to get so much more appreciation out of that wine when you finally drink it in a restaurant or with, you know, the right kind of food or whatever, compared to if you're just given the wine out of the blue and you're like, I guess it tastes kind of sour, and you don't have the palate there. Something about being in virtual reality versions of things before the real thing to me is just such good prep, and it gets you in a headspace where there's almost less cognitive load when you are actually in the real space, in this case, architecture. And I just found I was so delighted to be in that real space, and then to go back to the virtual reality version after and have this very clear sense of like, that's where I was seated for the show is very cool. So that was all great. Went down to develop Brighton after all that wonderfulness. And that was a really cool event. Saw a ton of amazing people from around the world, some of whom I'd met before in person at various things like Unreal Fest, some of which I'd never met before in my life. And I also got to see a great talk by Christopher Morrison, who is a little bit like me, talks at about this speed, much more vulgar in a very fun way. And that was all about the importance of narrative in VR. And he went through a bunch of different projects with like real numbers, which was very nice. And then Dante and I were there, and Dante and I gave a bunch of VR demos, and that was great to hear responses about what people think about all the crazy stuff we're doing, especially in the world of theater. Brighton also was super bright and super warm, and I wish I went in the ocean, but I didn't because there was not enough time. After that, went to London for Friday to Monday, then had a very long flight back to New York. Don't worry about that. But the shows that we saw, just a quick flyby of a bunch of the shows we saw and the offices we visited too. I guess I'll do offices first. On Friday, we did this great little like biking tour, really, because biking is now by far the fastest way to get around Blackfriars. But we got to hang out with Liquid City and my amazing friends over there, some of whom I've known for many, 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 many years. And I love the stuff they're doing with Parabrain and AI. We saw Target 3D and Existent. Been such a fan of Andy and all the work they've been doing with like mixed virtual reality co-located experiences, especially with Vive trackers and Target 3D. And they've got this great volumetric capture system. I last saw Target 3D back in 2018 when they were over in, I think, Guildford, and I saw a demo of Move AI at the time, which was really exciting. Now they've got a capture set up with volumetric capture all rolled into one, which is super cool over at Target 3D there. We went over to Bentley, which has like the nicest office I've ever seen. It's like this crazy suite up high in a skyscraper in London, and they've got digital twin of the whole space. And I saw something they're preparing for their event in Amsterdam coming up in September. That was super cool. Not sure how much I'm actually allowed to talk about some of this stuff, but we're just whizzing by it, so that makes it okay, I think. Also went over to Squint Opera, Journey, Studio 59. We talked about all the crazy things they're doing with architecture and visualization and VR, and talked a little bit about Stranger Things, which they actually did some amazing Unreal Engine like fly-through visual effect things for that look beautiful on the stage. Yes, we did get to go see Stranger Things as well. And also, I got to go to visit my friends at D-Box in London I'd never met them before. That was super cool because we've been working with D-Box over in the States mostly, and had great discussions about some of the differences between architecture, visualization, VR, etc. in the United States versus Europe. And it was just cool to hang out with them and talk about the amazing work that they've gotten to do, and we got to impress them with some of the stuff we're doing. And I love those kinds of quid pro quo discussions. Now on to shows real quick, because I'm going to see if I can do all this before I get home. We'll see if we keep this one under 10 minutes. I was like, it's a bug. No, it's just my hair. I'm in like a tie-dye shirt that I made in like camp years ago. And shows real quick. Okay, so we got rush tickets to Stranger Things. Stranger Things was amazing. Production design was incredible. The script was better than a lot of the other things that Jack Thorne has been involved with. I'm not a huge fan of the script of Cursed Child or the adaptation of His Dark Materials, where I loved the books and thought the HBO show was not so good. But this was amazing. I thought the spectacle of it was incredible. I thought it integrated into the world of the Stranger Things Netflix series so well, in a way where it still felt like a stage piece, but it still felt of that universe. And the younger versions of all the characters were great. The whole thing was very theatrical, very powerful, and all the scenes that required some sense of like magic or whatever always felt very polished and precise and excellent, and not like there was any kind of gimmicky things going on. So incredible show, and highly recommend seeing it if you can. Be careful though of some of the of the animal cruelty, because I was like, should I take my kids to see this? No, too many upsetting things happening to animals in the show. But besides that, absolutely incredible production and very well acted and all that good stuff. We also did a bunch of immersive stuff. We went to Bridge Command, which a friend, Shelly, who wrote for No Pro, and I went to see The Drop from Swamp Motel, now just called Swamp, back in 2021. She's now in Bridge Command, and it's this incredible kind of Star Trek experience where you all do one of 20 missions they have right now in a spaceship, and you pick a different role, and then you're all working together to solve the mission. And it's like the coolest live action role playing thing you could imagine. And I could just imagine getting like a season pass. I don't know if they offer that, but just allowing yourself to go through these things all the time with friends, the same way you would with like a D&D group, and it would be a ton of fun. The whole thing is incredibly well set up. The production design of it is excellent. It all feels really good. And I got to be in the engineering department, where I basically had to run around and put out fires and change out, reactor cores and tell nanobots to go repair things. And that was all lovely. And we had a great time. And I recommend anyone who's in London, go check out Bridge Command. Slightly less high recommendation was the War of the Worlds show, which is also an immersive experience. And I loved everything that involved live actors, everything where you felt like you were being taken on this journey of like what happened. You're going through the memories of what happened when the Martians attacked the planet. And like, I thought that was a very good way to set you up to not be too afraid of the things that were going to happen, because it's like you're in a memory, almost like a Pensieve sort of thing from Harry Potter, where it's like, don't worry, everything you're going to see has already happened. It's in the past, and it can't hurt you. But then the show bounces so much between things that you're doing with like real actors and VR and other sorts of things that are it's hard to say whether it's a memory or something that's actually happening to you, because you feel so involved in all of it. So hey, wineberries, yummy. So the live actors were great. The production design was hit or miss. Some of the alien parts were not as impressive as I would have liked them to be. But it was fun. It was good to go with friends. I went with Dante and then Amber Bartosh, who runs the London Syracuse architecture program, which is how I fell in love with London in the first place, was studying abroad there for a semester. It had musical elements, which I'm not sure how well those worked, because it's supposed to be like, it framed as kind of this like very serious, like, oh, we're going to dive into what made this battle so harrowing. You think it was this great victory for England. No, it was much worse than that. But then there's these like really kind of ridiculous and in kind of a fun way musical numbers, which is fine, like have the fun musical numbers, but that tonal dissonance was a bit of a problem. I like the fact that there was an intermission. I've never been to an immersive show that had an intermission in the middle. And I think that was actually kind of an interesting way to give you a moment to digest what it was and what you were doing with everyone else there. And of course, good way for the immersive show to make some money selling drinks halfway through, like a normal theater show. Then I got to see a bunch of friends at a very Colombian barbecue, which was cool. Just mentioning that as part of my day. Saw my nephew, saw a good friend, Andy Walsh, who's an amazing video game writer who's also done some VR work, and that was fun. And then we went to see ABBA on Sunday. And ABBA, I'm personally not like an enormous fan beyond, knowing some of the songs and knowing that my dad used to perform some of them as part of his rock band in the 70s and 80s. But ABBA puts on an incredible show, even though they are not real. And I could go on a very long rant about the tech side of it all and like different things that worked and didn't work for me. But I think as a whole, as a spectacle, as a shared communal audience experience, it is absolutely the thing that has set the bar for me in terms of like how to put on an incredible show that mixes different elements of liveness. Obviously, there's a real live band. There's a bunch of pre-recorded ABBA things. There's amazing set design, production design things happening all around you. The ABBA, they're not holograms. It's a big, maybe 16K, like super sharp HDR screen on stage that the characters, the younger CG avatars of the ABBA members are the avatars, as they say. That looked great. Like that to me, I saw no motion blur. It just felt like they were standing up there, even though there's nothing 3D about it. Like they're just there on stage. It became more of a problem to me when they're showing like giant close-ups of them on stage, and that felt to me more like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, which I still find very unsettling and unnatural. So I'm not sure what the solution is to that, because of course you want to see close-ups of everyone. Some of the camera moves felt very CG. Some of the ways they transitioned them back on stage, it was one of those things where it's like I wanted it to either lean more into like this is CG and we're going to do crazy things that can only happen in CG, or it's totally real and we are going to make it seem totally real as though these are living, breathing things. I like these little stories that they told kind of in between different sets. And the ending, there's a thing that happens at the end that I won't spoil, but it's a very lovely grace note for the whole performance. Anyway, go see ABBA. I'm also very curious to see what other shows I'm sure are in the works right now that this inspires, because, what a cool way to bring back nostalgia in a way that doesn't just feel like member berries, but like a really powerful new synthesis of other things. So I'm very, very impressed by that. Okay, video is a little over 10 minutes, so we'll stop there. But there's my very quick flyby of everything going on there. Now to catch up on the 1,000 other things going on with AgileLens that I have been neglecting for a little while. So wish me luck. And next big things coming up will be Worlds in Play, amazing artist retreat, immersive theater, LARPing VR event in Monticello, Illinois. And then right after that, presenting at SIGGRAPH in Vancouver. So hopefully see you at one of those. Goodbye for now.